Adrian Winters stood at the edge of the Microsoft campus in Seattle, watching rain cascade down the glass facade. Behind that successful exterior designer clothes, prestigious UX design position, marriage to a loving husband, lurked the shadow of a boy from Oklahoma who once slept in his car after his parents discovered a love letter to another boy. The memory still stung like a fresh wound. "We didn't raise you to be this way," his father had said, voice cold as the winter night Adrian spent huddled in a Walmart parking lot. Seattle had become his sanctuary. Here in Capitol Hill, rainbow flags hung proudly from apartment balconies. Here he had rebuilt himself, piece by broken piece. Here he had met Ryan Thompson, the Starbucks executive whose smile had finally made him believe he deserved happiness. Their wedding in Volunteer Park 2 years ago felt like a dream, small, intimate, perfect. Everyone was there except the family who had discarded him, but even paradise had its serpent. Jake Wilson, Ryan's best friend from University of Washington days, tall, conventionally handsome, from old Seattle money. The friend who had held Ryan through his father's passing. The friend who now held elegant dinner parties and gallery showings, but somehow never had space on the guest list for Adrian. The friend whose eyes flickered with something dark whenever Adrian entered a room. "Jake's just protective," Ryan always said, brushing away Adrian's concerns with the casual dismissal that made Adrian doubt his own perceptions, a habit formed in his childhood home where his feelings were always deemed too sensitive or dramatic. Adrian had spent years perfecting the art of making himself smaller to fit into spaces never designed for him. And when Jake sent Ryan concert tickets with a "just like old times" note, Adrian suggested they go. When Jake planned weekend trips with the guys, Adrian encouraged Ryan to join. He swallowed the hurt when he saw Instagram stories of laughter and inside jokes. The rain intensified, mirroring the storm brewing inside him. Adrian wondered if he would ever stop trying to prove his worth to people determined not to see it. People like Jake, whose carefully orchestrated exclusion felt like high school all over again. People who made him question if he truly belonged in this beautiful life he'd built from nothing. What Adrian couldn't see was that Jake's hostility stemmed not from hatred of Adrian, but from something far more complex, a reflection in the mirror Jake couldn't bear to face. Every time Jake watched Adrian and Ryan together, every casual touch and loving glance, he confronted what he denied himself. How many of us wear masks to hide our deepest truths? How many build walls against the very thing we secretly desire? Sometimes the people who hurt us most are fighting battles we cannot see. This doesn't excuse their cruelty, but it reminds us that behind every act of rejection often lies a story of fear. If Adrian's journey speaks to you, subscribe to HeartStories for more tales of resilience, self-discovery, and the courage to live authentically even when the world tries to push you back into shadows. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning. Adrian nearly spilled his coffee when he saw the sender, Jake Wilson. In 3 years of knowing Ryan, Jake had never once reached out directly. The subject line read simply, "Photography request, Sam exhibition, the Seattle Art Museum." Adrian's heart quickened as he opened it. Jake's exhibition, Modern Masculinity Breaking Boundaries, had been generating buzz in the arts community for months. His stark black and white portraits of men defying traditional gender expressions had caught the attention of major curators. The email was formal, almost clinical. Jake needed a final subject for his centerpiece. Someone with non-traditional masculine energy and an ethereal quality. Someone like Adrian. Your look would complement the exhibition's theme perfectly. Jake wrote, "This could be an excellent opportunity to get to know each other better." The words sat on the screen, innocent yet loaded with subtext. Why now, why him? A subtle unease settled in Adrian's stomach. When he showed Ryan that evening in their Capitol Hill apartment, his husband's face lit up with childlike excitement. "This is exactly what I've been hoping for," Ryan exclaimed, wrapping Adrian in a bear hug. My two favorite people finally connecting. He couldn't see the reservation in Adrian's eyes, the flicker of doubt. "Don't you think it's strange?" Adrian asked, voice careful. "After all this time of barely acknowledging me?" Ryan smiled dim slightly. Jake's just been busy with his career. This is him making an effort. The familiar dismissal made Adrian's chest tighten, but he nodded. Ryan had never been able to see the subtle ways Jake excluded Adrian, the barbed comments disguised as jokes, the invitations that mysteriously never extended to spouses. That night, lying awake beside Ryan's peaceful sleeping form, Adrian scrolled through Jake's photography portfolio. The images were undeniably striking, vulnerable, raw, powerful. Yet something about the way Jake captured his subjects felt almost predatory, as if he was exposing something they hadn't intended to reveal. Adrian thought of his own journey, the scared boy kicked out at 17, working coffee shop jobs while living in his car, slowly building a life despite being told he didn't deserve one. He had survived worse than Jake Wilson's passive aggression. Perhaps this was a chance to prove to Ryan that his concerns weren't just paranoia. Perhaps this was an opportunity to mend something broken. Or perhaps it was walking willingly into a trap. Adrian closed his eyes, remembering his therapist's words, "You are no longer that vulnerable boy. You have built strength from your scars." The studio was nestled within Jake's Queen Anne penthouse, a sleek, minimalist space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound and the Space Needle. Perfect Seattle postcard views that screamed old money and privilege. Adrian texted Ryan his arrival time as the private elevator climbed toward what felt increasingly like a confrontation rather than a photo session. We often walk into situations against our better judgment, silencing the warning bells because we want to believe people can change. We override our instincts to keep peace, to avoid seeming difficult or paranoid. Yet those internal alarms evolve for a reason, to protect us from dangers our conscious mind hasn't fully processed. Adrian's desire to please Ryan, to be the bigger person, was leading him straight into the lion's den, armed with nothing but good intentions and a lifetime of learning to doubt his own perceptions. The elevator doors opened to reveal not the private photography session Adrian had expected, but something closer to a cocktail party. 10 or 12 of Seattle's elite lounged on minimalist furniture, champagne flutes and whiskey tumblers in hand. Their conversations died momentarily as they assessed the newcomer. Adrian felt immediately underdressed in his simple black turtleneck and jeans clothing Jake had specifically requested. Jake emerged from the crowd, camera already hanging around his neck. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Adrian, perfect timing. Everyone's been waiting to see my final subject." The way he said subject made Adrian feel like a specimen. Ryan appeared from a corner conversation, already holding a drink, already part of this world in a way Adrian never quite managed to be. The studio space had been arranged with dramatic lighting. A simple stool sat centered on seamless white paper. But unlike a professional setup with privacy screens, this was arranged like theater in the round, with clear sight lines for Jake's assembled audience. "We'll start with something simple," Jake instructed, positioning Adrian on the stool. "I want to capture that delicate quality you have." The word delicate hung in the air, drawing smirks from several onlookers. Ryan, standing nearby, didn't seem to notice the undercurrent. What followed was subtle torture disguised as art direction. "Chin down, look more vulnerable. No, softer, less masculine energy," Jake directed, each instruction pushing Adrian toward poses that felt increasingly demeaning. The crowd watched, sipping expensive spirits, occasionally whispering comments that sent ripples of laughter through the room. Adrian caught fragments. "Can't believe Ryan married that." And Ryan, like a little boy playing dress-up. His chest tightened. His fingers gripped the edge of the stool. Through it all, Ryan watched with a strange detachment, occasionally nodding at Jake's directions as if they made perfect sense. 2 hours in, when Adrian's dignity felt thoroughly stripped away, Tyler Martin, the tech CEO whose startup had just gone public, stepped closer, glass of whiskey sloshing as he gestured toward Adrian. "Jake, you're too obvious. Man," he slurred, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Such a shame Ryan didn't end up with someone like you. He needs a real man, not this fragile, delicate thing." The room went silent. All eyes turned to Ryan, waiting for his reaction. for the defense of his husband, for anything resembling loyalty. Adrian's heart hammered against his ribs as he watched Ryan's face, praying for the man he married to emerge from whatever social trance had consumed him. Ryan laughed nervously. "You guys are drunk," he said, then changed the subject to Tyler's recent product launch. The betrayal was so complete, so casual, it left Adrian breathless. In that moment, something crystallized within him, the realization that he had spent his life contorting himself to fit into spaces where he was never meant to belong. The photo shoot continued. Adrian performed like an automaton, emotionally disengaged while Jake captured his hollow expressions. Only now did Adrian fully comprehend that Jake wasn't creating art, he was weaponizing his camera, using Adrian's image to reinforce everything Jake despised about himself. We often recognize truth not in dramatic revelations, but in small, devastating moments when pretense falls away. For Adrian, watching his husband fail to defend him was such a moment, a mirror reflecting the imbalance at the core of their relationship. Sometimes love isn't enough if it crumbles under social pressure. Sometimes the people we trust most reveal their character, not in grand gestures, but in the painful moments when standing up would cost them something. The night after the photo shoot, Adrian sat alone in their apartment, the space suddenly feeling foreign. Ryan had stayed behind at Jake's for drinks, casually dismissing Adrian's quiet request to leave together. Now, hands trembling slightly, Adrian typed his experience into a Reddit post on r/relationships. The words poured out Jake's orchestrated humiliation, the audience's thinly veiled contempt, and most painfully, Ryan's betrayal through silence. Adrian hit submit, expecting perhaps a few sympathetic comments. By morning, the post had exploded thousands of upvotes, hundreds of comments. Strangers on the internet saw with perfect clarity what Adrian had struggled to articulate. This wasn't normal behavior from either Jake or Ryan. This was deliberate cruelty, gaslighting, and emotional abuse. "Your husband threw you to the wolves," one commenter wrote. Another, "Jake's obsession with humiliating you suggests he's fighting something within himself." The validation was both vindicating and devastating. Adrian wasn't crazy. His perceptions weren't warped by childhood trauma. The situation was exactly as wrong as it felt. Then came a private message from an account named Seattle Art Insider. "Jake Wilson dated my best friend Marcus for almost 2 years in secret. When his family found out, Jake denied everything, chose his trust fund, and Marcus moved to New York heartbroken. Jake's hostility isn't about you, it's about what you represent." The revelation hit Adrian like a physical blow. Jake, the epitome of straight male privilege in Adrian's mind, was living a lie. The pieces clicked together: the overcompensation, the fixation on traditional masculinity, the visceral discomfort around Adrian and Ryan's open relationship. Jake wasn't hateful, he was terrified. Adrian spent the day researching, finding breadcrumbs confirming the story. An old photo on Marcus's private Instagram showed him with an artfully cropped figure whose watch matched Jake's distinctive vintage Rolex. References to a mysterious Seattle boyfriend who couldn't be himself. A mutual connection confirmed their relationship ended suddenly when Jake's conservative banking family intervened. When Ryan finally returned home that evening, Adrian was sitting calmly at their dining table. "We need to talk about yesterday," Adrian said quietly. Ryan sighed, defensive before the conversation even began. "It was just guys being stupid." "Adrian, you're reading too much into it." "Did you know Jake is gay?" Adrian asked. The question landed like a grenade in their carefully constructed reality. Ryan's expression shifted from dismissal to shock to something more complicated: knowledge. He had known. "It's not my story to tell," Ryan whispered finally. "Jake's family would cut him off completely. His father's health is failing. The timing isn't right." "And what about the timing for respecting your husband?" Adrian asked. "For standing up when your friend used me as a prop to mock everything I am, everything we are together." The ensuing conversation stretched until dawn, excavating layers of their relationship that had remained conveniently buried. Ryan admitted he had once kissed Jake during college, an alcohol-fueled moment Jake had tried to pursue further. but which Ryan had gently rejected. This history created a power dynamic that Ryan had never fully addressed, allowing Jake's inappropriate behavior rather than risking their friendship. As morning light filtered through their windows, Adrian realized that his journey from that Oklahoma parking lot to the Seattle apartment had transformed his circumstances, but not his fundamental pattern accepting less than he deserved, making himself smaller to accommodate others' comfort. The scared teenager who once believed love was conditional had grown into a man still seeking approval from those who would never fully give it. Growth often comes when we finally recognize the patterns we've been repeating throughout our lives. Adrian's revelation wasn't just about Jake's hidden sexuality or Ryan's betrayal. It was about his own willingness to accept treatment that violated his dignity. The strongest act of self-love sometimes isn't forgiving others, but refusing to participate in relationships that require you to diminish yourself. 3 days after the confrontation with Ryan, Adrian discovered the photographs on Instagram. Jake had posted a preview of his exhibition, featuring Adrian's images prominently. The captions cut deep: "Exploring fragile masculinity" and "When boys try to be men." Each carefully crafted phrase transformed Adrian's vulnerability into a spectacle, art weaponized as mockery. Instead of spiraling into hurt, Adrian felt something unexpected: clarity. This wasn't about art. This was about Jake's inability to face his own reflection. With steady hands, Adrian texted Jake, "Starbucks Reserve Roastery, tomorrow, noon. We need to talk." No explanation, no emotional plea, just a boundary firmly drawn. The roastery bustled with tourists and locals when Adrian arrived, its copper brewing vessels gleaming like ancient artifacts. He chose this public place deliberately, no private penthouse where power dynamics could be manipulated. Jake entered looking uncharacteristically nervous, his camera conspicuously absent. "Your exhibition uses me as a prop," Adrian began without preamble. "Not to explore masculinity, but to mock what you can't accept in yourself." The words landed with precision. Jake's practiced facade cracked, color draining from his face. "You don't understand my artistic vision," Jake attempted, but his voice lacked conviction. "I understand hiding," Adrian replied. "I understand the terror of being disowned, sleeping in your car at 17 because the truth was unacceptable to those who should love you unconditionally. What I don't understand is building your safety on someone else's humiliation." The carefully constructed walls collapsed. Jake's confession spilled out between choked breaths: his relationship with Marcus, his family's ultimatum, choosing wealth over authenticity, the kiss with Ryan that haunted him, the self-loathing projected onto Adrian, who represented everything Jake couldn't allow himself to be. "I hate that you're free," Jake whispered. "I hate that Ryan loves you without shame." Adrian felt no triumph in Jake's breakdown, only recognition of a shared wound differently handled. "Your art is brilliant, Jake," he said finally. "Imagine what it could be if it came from truth rather than fear." When Adrian confronted Ryan that evening, he brought the same clarity. No accusations, just boundaries. "I won't be the collateral damage in your friendship with Jake. I won't make myself smaller to fit into spaces designed to exclude me. Either we rebuild with complete honesty, or we reconsider what we've built." The months that followed brought painful growth. Couples therapy twice weekly, Ryan learning to recognize his pattern of prioritizing social harmony over his husband's dignity, Adrian reclaiming his voice after years of careful self-editing. Jake's exhibition opened, transformed. The concept shifted from exploring non-traditional masculinity to Mask What We Hide, featuring self-portraits exploring his own facades alongside portraits of others, including Adrian, portrayed with dignity rather than mockery. The exhibition notes included Jake's coming out story. His family didn't attend. His bank account had shrank. His art soared. A year later, Adrian and Ryan stood hand in hand at Seattle Pride Parade. Their relationship, rebuilt on honesty rather than accommodation, felt both newer and deeper. Through the crowd, Adrian spotted Jake, fingers intertwined with another man's, wearing the unguarded expression of someone finally breathing after years underwater. Their eyes met. A nod of recognition passed between them. Not friendship, exactly, but mutual respect forged through confrontation and growth. How often do we hide parts of ourselves, fearing rejection from those who are doing the same? How many conflicts stem not from hatred, but from seeing in others what we cannot accept in ourselves? The hardest battles are often with the masks we've worn so long, we've forgotten our true face beneath them. If Adrian's journey resonated with you, share your own story of reclaiming your voice in the comments below. Have you ever had to establish boundaries with someone who couldn't accept themselves? How did you navigate that challenging path? Subscribe to Heart Stories for more tales of authentic transformation, where healing begins not when we change others, but when we finally honor ourselves enough to stand firmly in our truth.